So guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are looking at possibly the most comfortable stability shoe that you can buy. This is the updated version of the ASICS Gel-Kayano, the Kayano 31. Let's get into it. Let's get started with those disclosures. This video is in partnership with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me the ASICS Gel-Kayano 31 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say, they don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you can pick up a pair of the Gel-Kayano 31 from Roadrunner Sports for $165. And of course, I'll place links in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. Now, $165, that is a slight increase over the Gel-Kayano 30, which was $160. But ASICS has made a few changes with the 31, so I'll let you decide if that extra $5 is worth it. Now, the Gel-Kayano 31 has 40 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. That's the same as last year. And ASICS claims that a US men's size 9 will tip the scale at 10.7 ounces or 305 grams. And just so you know, that is a 2-gram weight increase over the Kayano 30. But in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 12.8 ounces or 362 grams. And that, as it turns out, is 5 grams less than my size of the Kayano 30. So it seems that the Kayano weighs less as the size goes up, at least compared with last year's model. Okay, so let's start at the top. Let's work our way down because everything that's going on up top, this seems to be the biggest change to me over last year's version. And let's get started with that heel collar, and this is the biggest visible change because ASICS has gone with their Gel Nimbus 26 styling, and we have a very thin area right at the top of the heel collar, and then we have some recessed padding just on the inside. And that padding is a nice thick bolster, and it really cradles your heel well when you step in. We've also got this knit heel pull right on the back. Nice. You know what? I didn't think the Gel-Kayano 30 had a heel pull, and I was right. So that heel pull is probably worth the $5 in itself. For the upper, ASICS is using an engineered mesh. However, they've made it more ventilated this year, and this is pretty clear. In fact, let me grab version 30 again and let me hold it up. I think it's most clear right on the toe box, although my colorway is kind of blown out on the camera, but I'll just describe it for you. There is a lot of ventilation holes in the Gel-Kayano 31 and very small ventilation holes in the Gel-Kayano 30. So the 31 is definitely going to be more ventilated than the 30. Let's put that away. Now, I should say that I live in Florida, and right now it's the summertime in Florida. So even though that the upper of the Gel-Kayano 31 is more ventilated, it's still fairly warm in super warm temperatures. Like when I've been going out and I've been running in this shoe, it doesn't feel like my feet are getting a lot of air, but they certainly feel very protected. So I suppose that's a trade-off. The heel counter is super rigid, just as we would expect. This is a daily trainer. And again, just as we would expect, we get a good heel lockdown. At least that's what it feels like when you first put your foot in. I did have some observations on the run, but we'll talk about that in the ride section. As far as overlays, ASICS really hasn't gone overboard on the overlays. We got the branding on both the medial and the lateral sides. Looks like just some decals with some reflective elements here on the back. Nice underlay coming around the toe box just to keep that upper off your foot. And then we got that standard reinforcement right along the eyelet chain just to give you a little reinforcement. We do have the extra heel lock lace holes in case you needed it. I didn't have to use this lace hole in my testing though. And the tongue is actually something I'm pretty impressed about. Usually on these daily trainers, whether they be stability or neutral, especially with these super premium daily trainers, the tongue is often very thick. And I'm happy to see that ASICS hasn't overdone it with the tongue. Like there is enough padding in the tongue to stop any kind of lace bite, but it's not an overstuffed pillow, which I'm really not a fan of. The tongue does have a lace loop right in the middle, and we do have a nice gusset on both sides of the tongue. So all that to say, the tongue isn't going anywhere. I did have a good lockdown, and again, a very comfortable step-in feel on the Kayano 31. So let's talk about the midsole. ASICS is using their Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco. Now that's their softest cushioning yet. And because of that Eco on the end, we know that the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco is using approximately 20% of bio-based materials in its construction. That's always a good thing. Now I do want to draw your attention to the sidewalls of this Flight Foam Blast Plus, and we can see that they do come up quite high on the lateral and on the medial side, and that's just one of those stability elements that's going to keep your foot centered on the shoe. And then if we look here, on my colorway, it's yellow, so it stands out quite well. This is ASICS 4D guidance system, and this is actually a softer foam than the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco. In fact, just to give you an idea of the difference, the 4D guidance foam is 22 on the durometer, and the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco is 32 on the durometer. So yes, much softer. And ASICS says that this 4D guidance system guides your foot through every step with adaptive on-demand stability. Okay, so with that in mind, I should tell you that the Kayano 31 is actually marketed towards neutral runners and those that need a little stability. So generally speaking, I usually run in neutral shoes, so I do prefer these shoes with kind of like inherent stability built in rather than some stiff posting that is controlling my stride. And ultimately this 4D guidance system, the way ASICS says it adapts for on-demand stability. It's kind of like it's there if you need it and it's out of the way if you don't. And this works especially well if you do need some stability in your running shoes, because perhaps you start off on your run and you're not tired and you're running as efficiently as you can at that moment, but you still need a little bit of control to stop your foot from collapsing in. But then fast forward, you've been running for an hour, you're getting a little tired, maybe you're getting a little sloppy. I know that happens to me on the run. So you need to rely on this 4D guidance system a little more. So perhaps you're putting a little more pressure on it. Well, at that time, the 4D guidance system foam is going to compress more and then sort of spring you back to where you should be. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's the idea behind it. And it seems to work pretty well. I mean, that's coming from a neutral runner. But I did feel that the Kayano 31 was controlling me a little more than I felt in the Kayano 30. And I can't say if they've changed anything with the 4D guidance system. It's probably just a combination of all the changes. But even so, it was very comfortable to run in. Now, let's just look at the outsole for a second. And first of all, I want to show you this footprint. Again, this is part of the stability that goes in. This is a very wide base. And that in and of itself is going to lead to a much more stable ride. And then if we look from the top, you can see there is quite a bit of sole flare that kind of sticks out of the side. And that's great from a stability standpoint. But it does lead to a somewhat clunky ride. I shouldn't say clunky because it doesn't feel unnatural. It just feels like the shoe is quite big. And I think that is because of that wide base. And then we've got this hybrid ASICS grip on the bottom, which I found to be very grippy. I ran in both dry and wet and didn't have any issues in the wet. And we've got this slightly firmer A-Hard Plus rubber on the heel, which is just going to stand up to a little more punishment, as that's where a lot of us are going to be landing first. So it's going to take the brunt of the impact. And then I want to hold up the shoe, and we can see there is a slight heel bevel here on the back. And then we have a fairly early start to the rocker. And all this just combines to make this shoe perfect for running easy. That's exactly how the shoe was designed. It is 100% a Cadillac. You put this shoe on, you're running in comfort. And I know I did say clunky, but it actually does flow from heel to toe nicely. I didn't have any issues with the weight, but that's because I only ran easy in this shoe. The Kayano 31 is going to be perfect for those bread and butter daily miles where you're just going out and you put in some time on your feet. That's where this shoe shines. I'm not bagging on it by saying don't run fast in this shoe. I mean, you could, but there are a lot better options out there, and this shoe is just a cruiser. Now, I know I am speaking to runners for the most part, but if you were looking for a shoe to walk in, or maybe a lifestyle shoe, if you liked lifestyle shoes that look like running shoes, I think the Kayano 31 is also going to be ideal for you. In fact, I see the Kayano 31 as the type of shoe that is used primarily for just walking around, and then you have a solid running shoe on hand for the times when you want to go out for a run. It is a solid all-rounder. And all-rounder, I mean like lifestyle and running. Not an all-rounder as in an all-paces kind of shoe. So the Gel-Kayano 31 certainly has a lane, and it stays in that lane, and it does what it was designed to do very well. Oh, I didn't mention the Pure Gel. There is a little nugget of Pure Gel right in the heel. It's just going to add to enhance shock absorption. I mean, that's what ASICS says. Seems like it would be true. Oh, and there was one more thing that I wanted to tell you about the heel lockdown. Because look, if I'm going to hold this up again, there's a lot of padding around here. However, I did find when I was on the run, my foot felt a little loose in the back. But that's not to say I was sliding around. I certainly wasn't. Again, I didn't have to use this lace lock method to lock my heel in, but I think I was expecting a certain kind of grippiness from the heel, and I didn't get it with my foot. Now, it could be that I have narrow heels. I think I do. But even though it felt a little loose in the back, it wasn't enough for me to do anything about it. So I don't even know why I'm mentioning it, but I want you to know. I think that heel lock issue would be immediately resolved by using the lace lock holes. But again, I wasn't actually sliding. I just didn't feel as secure in my heel as I thought I would, as I remember feeling in the Kayano 30. But that on its own is absolutely no reason to not buy the Kayano 31. It's a solid shoe for those easy runs, recovery miles. And then when you come back from the run, you can wear it, run out, do things about town. So I want to hear from you. Do you use stability trainers? If not, have you ever tried them? And would you consider the Kayano 31? Just to repeat myself again, it is not just for stability runners. It works well for neutral runners. It's a good max cushion, very premium daily trainer. So drop a comment and let me know. And with that, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the ASICS Gel-Kayano 31. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.